Well, all right, y'all. So welcome or welcome back to Love 24 Hours Here, where we view content that can either brighten or enlighten your day. All right, y'all. So real quick, I just want to say that yo, the last two videos I made have keys in them, pimpin'. There are keys in there, and I just wanted to point that out. Like probably the biggest gems I've dropped thus far, probably. If you haven't checked it out, make sure you check it out. If you have checked it out and you're like, what you mean? Go back and look at it. And if you have no clue what I'm talking about, it just doesn't pertain to you, that's also fine too. Those keys are only if you're in a particular building, I would say. All right. But yeah, you dig what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying? That was a good example. But yeah, you seek and you shall find. So yeah, without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump straight into the video.
I'm gonna just wait here for a little bit. Let time pass.
Problem comes up, one of the best things to say is, all is well, everything is working out for my highest good, and out of this situation, this so-called problem, only good will come, and I am safe. And you know, this is something that's very powerful. All is well, everything is working out for my highest good. Out of this experience, only good will come, and I am safe.
The human brain cannot comprehend the negative. It is incapable. Yes, it's true. I'll give you an example. You ready? Don't think of an elephant. You can't tell the human brain not to do something, right? And so what happens is we very often reinforce things when we put things in the negative, right? It's such a huge thing to convert things into the affirmative. You're supposed to do it with children as well. We're supposed to say, instead of saying to children, don't eat on the couch, we're supposed to say, eat at the table. Right? We tell people what we want them to do, not what we don't want to do. Pilots know this, right? It is well known in the pilot community that when you tell a pilot, don't hit the obstacle, they'll hit the obstacle. Because what they're doing is focusing on the obstacle. Skiers know this. If you say don't hit a tree, you'll hit a tree. You won't be able to find a path because all you see is millions of trees. If you say only follow the path, you actually don't see any trees. There's actually very sparse trees. There's plenty of paths, plenty of trees. It's the same thing for you. If you focus on the obstacles, all you will see is obstacles. If you focus on the path through the trees, all you will see is path through the trees. It's your choice how you choose to perceive your own career. It's literally perspective.
There's no going back.
She's a beast. I call her.
not let people think you do not belong. Once you sit at these tables with folks with fancy titles and you talk to them and you go, oh, they ain't all that. This idea that somehow they are so special, they're so smart, they're so sophisticated. Not really. They've been exposed. They've been given the confidence of feeling like they belong. But if you sit down and talk to them, turns out, that's my point. And the benefit for Michelle and me, because we came up, and at each stage, you know, you go to Harvard, and wow, it's Harvard. And then you find out, oh, Harvard's full of some fools and people that you would not put in charge of anything, but they're there. And there's some really amazing, brilliant people too. And then you go to the U.S. Senate and you look around and everybody's represented, smart people and dumb people, good people and bad people. Now suddenly you're meeting at the group of 7 world leaders are all in a room, or the United Nations. And oh, same thing. Turns out that there's some really smart, amazing world leaders and there's some fools running countries.
Good evening. We, the unwilling, led by the unknowing, are doing the impossible for the ungrateful. We have done so much for so long with so little. We are now qualified to do anything with nothing.
If you don't change what you're doing and how you do it, nothing else will change.
You cannot change your life unless you change something.
Once you change one thing, your mindset, you can attack everything.
Nothing changes if nothing changes, man.
If you will change, everything will change for you.
Something in you has to wake up. And usually the only person that can wake it up is you.
Nobody else at the moment has the power to change you unless you have that initial spark and say, I must do something. I don't want this anymore.
It sucks, but you have a choice to make. Do you want to sit down and go back to that guy you once were? No. So this is what it takes.
If you always do what you always did, you'll always get what you always got.
In order for something new to come, something old must go.
Don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. Don't wish for less problems, wish for more skills. Start working on yourself, making these personal changes, and he said it'll all change for you.
Voy a romperme la garganta, mi corazón ya no aguanta. No comimos la manzana, saborea su veneno. Dios, tenga piedad del desenfreno. Prego, ángeles guardianes, vengan, cubran el terreno. Que quiero besarte y tocarte el pelo, aunque la manzana tenga su veneno, porque mis alas son difíciles de cortar. Pam, 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 hey. Esta boca es difícil de callar. Pam, 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 hey. Yo, la tierra tiembla, carece, lloran mis ojos, padecen. Esto no termina nunca. ¿Y qué te parece? Se transformó la avaricia en una simple caricia, la magia de una sonrisa y hasta la brisa. Sin prisa vamos, sin prisa la vida juega de dicha por el que no tuvo suerte y por su ceniza. Ten esperanza, realiza, piénsalo bien, organiza, revisa, mira, analiza como esto pide una misa, porque mis alas son difíciles de cortar.
Once upon a time, there was a Chinese farmer who lost a horse, ran away, and all the neighbors came round that evening and said, that's too bad. And he said, maybe. The next day, the horse came back and brought 7 wild horses with it. And all the neighbors came around and said, why, that's great, isn't it? And he said, maybe. The next day, his son was attempting to tame one of these horses and was riding it and was thrown and broke his leg. And all the neighbors came round in the evening and said, well, that's too bad, isn't it? And the farmer said, maybe. The next day, the conscription officers came around looking for people for the army. And they rejected his son because he had a broken leg. And all the neighbors came round at the evening and said, isn't that wonderful? And he said, maybe. The whole process of nature is an integrated process of immense complexity, and it is really impossible to tell whether anything that happens in it is good or bad, because you never know what will be the consequences of a misfortune, or you never know what will be the consequences of good fortune.
When you spell the word potato, spelled like that. But when you say potatoes, the E comes out of nowhere. Same thing with the word tomato, spelled like that. But when you do it in plural, tomatoes, there's a random E keeps popping up. I don't know. So I did what y'all tell me to do, because y'all yell at me, Premium, why do you keep asking us? Why don't you ask Jeeves? Why don't you ask Google? Why don't you ask AI? Figure it out yourself. That's what I did. I started Googling. I started doing research. They said when a consonant comes right before a vowel, the ES got to go at the end. That's the rules of the language of English. I said, you almost got me. Because that's not the rules for all words. Because you got words like photo. There's no ES for that. It's just photos. Solo, ego, piano, avocado. It's just an S, no ES. Even the word tornado, there's an ES at the end for no reason. Tornado and avocado are borrowed from the same language, but one has an ES and one doesn't. Listen, I know that I'm funny sometimes, all right? And y'all kiki, laugh, all the time with me. Even though I'll be trying to tell y'all stuff with my eyes in my eyebrow area, okay? Listen to what I'm saying, okay? If the language that you are learning everything in, the language that you learn, the language that you speak, the language that you understand, right, is inconsistent with its own rules, and it's teaching you everything else in that same language that's inconsistent with its own rules, what else do you think is inconsistent? What else? I'm trying to tell y'all something without them, all I'm saying is what else could be inconsistent? It could be history, it could be math, it could be medicine, it could be anything. If you were around during the 1990s, there was a drug called fen-phen. It was made to, it was like a diet pill to help you lose that weight. There was no side effects, you good. Then they started finding out people was having heart attacks, people were dying. Now it's 2025 and everybody's on Ozempic. They just think it's no side effects, everything's good. We'll figure out in 20 years. All I'm saying is there's inconsistencies in things. You got to start paying attention. Like history. If I'm teaching you history in English, and the history didn't happen in English, what do you think could happen to the information I'm relaying to you? Listen, all I'm trying to get to you is stop following the rules. Stop following the rules. Stop following the rules, especially if the rules are inconsistent. Okay, if you keep following the rules, you put yourself in a bad position. Start thinking for yourself. Start doing your own research, figuring out things that work for you. You're just a human, just like the other people that are trying to relay the information to you. Just a bunch of other humans trying to tell another human that they're correct. And then their language is inconsistent. Their history is inconsistent. Their studies are inconsistent. Okay? That's all I'm going to say. I love y'all. Have a nice day.
I'd like to introduce you to the idea of water as an intelligent designer. Here I exposed water to my friend's photo, removed and froze using a special method, and it designed her face. I showed the ice result to the water, and it designed a negative of her face. I briefly placed my thumb in the water and then froze it, and water designed a thumb with a chip in the nail. I chipped my nail in exactly the same place 3 hours later. Here I used a conceptual word of ego. It's a word I have no visual for, which removes any mental projection, and water designed a person with big shoulders, a small face, and a giant balloon head. I used the word milk as an influence, and water designed a breast. I wasn't thinking of human milk, so this was a surprise. You notice that the ice designs are not photocopies of the influence, but more of an interpretation, and to me, this is clear display of some kind of awareness. I honestly don't think we know what water really is yet.
You've cut yourself, you've never leaked water out of yourself, which is so weird because you're 70% water.
Well, what do you mean? What's blood?
Blood is not from the cell, right? So you'll have blood, which is a liquid state, but it's outside of the cell. We can do huge surgeries with almost no bleeding. And so you're cutting through massive amounts of tissue. Heart surgery is just so dramatic. And there is no leak. There's no water there because it's not a liquid state. It's actually in this fourth phase of water, which looks like a dense jello. And what it is, miraculously, is a crystalline structure of that H2O. And that crystalline structure lines up along the DNA of the strand of the virus or the human DNA that you receive from mom and dad to create an antenna system. And so the vibration of water around the double helix of the completed human DNA creates a vibrational antenna. And now when you hit that with light energy, it vibrates at a very specific frequency. And I believe that what gives you the ability to wake up every day thinking you're Aubrey and not me is not actually a cognitive process is actually a vibrational event where you always know. And if somebody came along and said, your name's not actually Aubrey, your parents lied to you, your name's Phil, that's no problem for you, because you say, all right, I'm actually Phil, but you haven't lost track of who you are at that biologic level because you're still the same frequency of resonance.
Right.
So it's not, it doesn't dumb down to, well, that's my name. No, there's an awareness of self. There's a coherence of memory of your body that's held at the water structure and its resonance around the DNA strand. Memory's all in the water.
Whoa.
Memory's all in the water. We've never found a database in the brain or peripheral nervous system that allows for long-term memory. There's no structure. We have short-term memory in the hippocampus, which is a tiny little, size of an almond in the side of the brain. That's where we do short-term memory processing into long-term memory, but it disappears into this black box of long-term memory. We don't know where the hell that's happening in the neurology side, but we know through water structure that water carries memory at the molecular level in an exquisite state. The point being, vibration affects structure, and the memory of water is in this interface between the crystalline structure of the gel state of water in our cells and that electrical vibration from sunlight, from food translation into energy, all of these things. We're creating a new potential for human biology to have a genetics that then will wrap the water in a new state where we start to lose the memory of all the trauma, the emotional BS, the denigrating belief systems, and our water itself starts to get stripped of that negative information. And the water structure in the cell of somebody who has freed themselves of fear and guilt, who has cancer, is likely to free themselves of that cancer because they are vibrating at a higher frequency. And so it's very intriguing that by the end of this decade, wouldn't it be interesting if there was at least a large segment of the population that started to be able to hold more light energy in the water structure of the human cell than's ever happened before?
Yeah.
Your water is remembering the original math. And so sound healing works. If you've seen the sound vibration on an effect of a pool of water, and see the different sacred geometry that emerges with different notes.
Or with sand on a plate.
Sand on a plate.
Yeah.
You can see this beautiful sacred geometry, which is reflected in the structures of the universe, the way that supernovas occur in the vacuum space. All of these sacred geometries happen all over the place due to vibrational input into the, in this interface between the physical world and the quantum world. And so
the sound is a vector of remembrance.
Sound is a vector to create the vibrational shape that becomes an antenna. And so that sacred geometry picks up universal information that's beaming down on the planet through gamma ray and all sorts of electromagnetic field radiation from the universe. And I believe this is actually how astrology works, is that the stars and their positions, the planets and theirs, the position of our planet with regard to that massive nuclear event that we call the sun, at the moment of our birth, is setting our water structure into a very specific vibration. And from that moment forward, we will receive all of the energetic information of the universe to the tune of that sacred geometry.
Back to Life came about from my own pain, and I nearly died. I'll just do a brief version of it. I nearly died and literally came back to life. And I was mad because where I'd gone in between that was so wonderful. It was so wonderful, but I basically didn't pass over at that point. And so I wrote about being back to life, and I was mad. I was like, why do you want me here? However do you want me? What do you need from me? You know, I was talking to my creator, but it sounds like a party song on the record because of the way we put it together. No one would know it came from pain and suffering on my part, but I guess the creator wanted me to go through something like that so that I could tell the story in a way that people could enjoy it and keep it around forever. And, you know, that's how Back to Life came about, so.
Sonabile siya dandana obazamilu zajukanisa masulega abapanzi bagumile ukubazifanelele sinazobabili Masikunye yajabula siyathandana ayibazamilu zajukanisa ayibahluleka abapanzi bavumile ukuba sifanelene thina sobabili masikunye siyajabula jabula asibe happy mundana asibe happy sibe moye asibe happy mundana.
So we have come to a close. Okay, so thank you guys for joining me for today, and until next time, so enjoy the rest of your day or night or evening or whatever. And until the next video, peace out.